And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm so excited to welcome tonight Robert Bailey, the Wall Street Journal best-selling author, here to give us the inside scoop on his brand new red hot book, Rich Blood, out Thursday. Robert, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Ravens. Tell us about this book.
Hey, thank you, Sarah. It's an honor to be here. Very excited that this week's finally gotten here. Rich Blood is my eighth novel, and it is the first book that will feature Jason Rich, who is definitely the most flawed character that I've ever written about. He has been a fun character to work with because he's kind of a scoundrel. You know, he starts off the story as he's getting out of rehab. He's been suspended by the Alabama State Bar. He has billboards everywhere, which is a big thing. You know, in the Southeast, there's a lot of lawyers that have billboards. And then as he's coming out of rehab, he gets called back home to Lake Huntersville because his sister's gotten in all sorts of trouble. She's been arrested for the murder for hire of her husband, a beloved doctor in this small southern town. So Jason comes home where he grew up to basically try to save his sister's life and maybe even his own as he goes back home.
Ooh, and just like that, you hooked us good. I can't wait to get the scoop on all things Jason and Jana Rich and this fabulous series. Thanks for all the hearts and thumbs up on Facebook, y'all. I see ya. If you've been here before, you know how this goes. And if you're new, here's how it goes. Every Monday for hashtag Mystery Monday, because you know Mondays can be murder. I give you my handpicked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. So ask Wall Street Journal bestselling author Robert Bailey about this ambulance chasing bad boy Jason Rich he's written. Ask him about his real life career as a lawyer. We're going to need to know more about this overlap here. Is life on the page following real life? We need to know all the things. And you've got another book coming out in October, Golfers Carol, and you're a lawyer. You got a lot going on. Let's get into the comments. Melissa Watts saying, hi, Sarah and Robert, joining us live from Australia. Hey, Melissa, good to see you here. Thanks for tuning in. So let's start with, this is your first book in a new series. You're currently working on book 2 in the Jason Rich series. Where did you get the idea for this crazy character and the story?
So I think, like a lot of writers, I keep a little notebook. When I come up with a situation, I'm very much a situational writer. I'll jot it down so that I don't forget it. And a few years ago, I was just, when you're traveling a lot, and I do as a lawyer, you pass a lot of billboards. A lot of lawyers have them, and they're eye catchy, and they must work because they're everywhere. And so I thought it would be cool to feature a novel about one of these billboard lawyers. And then I thought it would be especially cool if perhaps the lawyer, while very successful, may have not had an actual trial. And so in this story, Jason Rich has never tried a case before. And so I wanted to put him trying his first ever case in a situation that had a lot of family drama. And so he's representing his sister. It's a criminal case out of his wheelhouse. And so that was the situation that came up. And I just sort of, it's like a recipe. You start, adding spice to it as you go, and trying to come up with it, making it even harder and harder for him. And that's kind of how it started.
Well, I like the seasoning and the spice analogy. I'm a cook. I love to cook. So this is an analogy that's working well for me. Anissa Joy joining us live from South Carolina. Good to see you, ma'am. Saying hello, Sarah and Robert. Anissa, always a pleasure to see your name pop up. Anissa's a bookstagrammer. She does a lot with friends and fiction. Jenna Bush and Mary Kay Andrews. So many amazing people. Anissa, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. Melissa saying she loves a flawed character. And she said that it's so interesting that so many lawyers turn out to be authors. So let's start with that. And she was the one who asked about the idea for the book. Thank you, Melissa. I'm sorry, I forgot to highlight you for that. So let's talk about this lawyer turning to author thing. Robert, did you always want to be an author? Did you always want to be a lawyer? Did you always want to be both? Did this come about by accident? What's the scoop?
Okay, so I went to high school in the late 80s, early 90s. And, we read To Kill a Mockingbird, I guess, when I was a sophomore in high school. Still remember reading it very well. Even remember where I was sitting in my house when I read it, because it was, a special book to me. And around the same time, John Grisham comes out with his first 5 novels. And so I think the combination of just loving that type of story made me probably want to be a lawyer and a writer.
I love that. I love that. So you're interested in writing and seeing justice on the page in both the Grisham and Kill a Mockingbird influenced you at such a young age, and now you're chasing justice and writing pages. That's very cool. So you said you can still remember where you sat to read that book. Where were you sitting?
It was on a really kind of uncomfortable couch in our living room. I don't know why I sat there, but I think I was probably trying to get away from my brother.
Maybe your brother's watching right now. Anissa would like to know, who was the hardest character to write and why? Great question, Anissa.
I think just generally for me, the hardest characters to write sometimes are the villains, because the villains in the story, a lot of times, you want your villain to be believable and to be, you want the reader to understand the motivations. And so I think, in a mystery thriller where it's whodunit, a lot of times the villain is not known until the end. So you have to kind of plant the seeds with several of the characters. And so, but I think character motivations are key. And I think, for me, I can't think of a single like hardest character in all of my books that I've written. I just think that generally, when I'm going back and editing, particularly with the villains, I try to, make sure that I understand, why they're doing what they're doing.
That is interesting. So, when I hosted Isabella Maldonado, who is a real life police captain turned author, someone asked her a question, and she said that in her days as a police captain, she noticed that the real life bad guys never see themselves as bad guys. They always see themselves as the victim. They always see themselves as someone else has wronged, someone else has they hurt them, and so they see their motives as pure. So when you're writing your villains and you're trying to understand them, do you have sympathy for them? Does that help you get in there thinking of them being wronged in some way?
I think, yeah, I think that help, whatever it is, whatever the reason is, you really want to try to get in their head and try to think the way they do. And I sometimes will put their thoughts on the page. And so, I shift point of view in my books. And so you get to get inside the villain's head sometimes. And so the villain in Rich Blood is a young meth lord in Sand Mountain, Alabama. It's a region near Gunnersville that's kind of, known, I guess, or one of the things it's known for is having, some pretty rough characters. And this villain, Tyson Cade, is sort of a young guy that's kind of risen to the top by just being very good at what he does. And his motivations in the story to stay on top and to never keep moving, because if you don't, you'll get dead, as he says in the story. I think that was probably one of the more difficult things. But sometimes it's fun to get in the bad guys' minds because, it's kind of neat to, just sort of, it's writing and reading are an escape. And so when you get into making it up as you go, sometimes it's kind of fun to explore, the bad guys and why they're doing what they're doing. So,
wow. Okay, we're seeing a whole new side of Robert Bailey. Lawyer by day, a thriller writer by night, part-time bad guy on the So this book is racking up all sorts of amazing praise, Robert, including from the incredible Patricia Cornwell. Congratulations on that. Let's take a look at what she had to say. Right here, saying Rich Blood is a deliciously clever legal thriller that keeps you turning pages fast and furious. Robert Bailey's latest is wildly entertaining. First of all, congratulations. I love Patricia Cornwell. I know so many people here do. Robert, you're 8 books in. What have you learned about how to make a book that makes Patricia Cornwell and the rest of us turn those pages fast and furious? How do you make it happen?
Well, I think that you as a writer, you have to keep reading. People like Patricia Cornwell that know what they're doing, and I think one of the joys of reading is like music. You hear the beat in your head, and I think a really good writers are able to keep the pages turning, and they just hear the story, and so maybe they've really exhausted the reader with a lot of details in a chapter, so they come back with a shorter one, which is kind of a reward for getting through the long one. And I try to do that in my stories. I feel like I've gotten better over the years. It took me 8 years to write The Professor, which was my first novel. I've got probably 2 drafts somewhere here in the drawer that never, made it out because they weren't good enough. They're way too long. And so somewhere in the writing of The Professor, I put the 10,000 hours in and learned kind of how to make it flow. And while I was doing that, I was reading a lot of stories, and I've always loved to read. And so I think at the end of the day, I try to get out of my head and just tell the story, page at a time, and try to think of it as storytelling more than writing, because that's when it's fun, when the story's flowing, just like when you're reading, when the story's flowing and it's popping and you don't want to stop.
I love that. So, what do you do on the days when it's not flowing, when you do want to stop? I'm asking for a friend, and the friend is me.
Yeah. So this is going to sound like some kind of dance, but I call it flow and grind. Like
Ooh,
writing is a flow activity, and to be good at it, or to pile up a lot of pages, you've got to get into the zone or the flow. But the only way you do that is by grinding it out every day and making yourself sit in the chair. And so, I think you have to have the grind before you ever get the flow. And so there are days when I sit and grind it out for 2 hours and I've written nothing but a bad paragraph and I'm probably going to have to scrap. But the next day, or maybe it's 2 or 3 bad days in a row, and then you have the day where you've written 15 pages in an hour and you've got tears in your eyes because you've written something emotional. And it's, that's the grind days. The flow days make the grind days worth it. And so I think, I actually write that on my, I keep little notebooks like this, and I'll write that, sometimes when when I forget, I think all writers suffer from imposter syndrome. And so I forget sometimes, what has gotten me to where I am. And so you really have to just make yourself sit there, and occasionally just writing a simple piece of dialogue or scene will get it going again. So that's how I do it. Flow and grind.
I'm here for the flow and grind. I love that. Melissa says, I can't pick which part of the USA you're from. So, Bob, you're from Alabama, right?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, so Melissa's joining us live from Australia. So
Oh, wow.
it's so interesting when you hear accents from other countries, right? Like I can't tell, a Western Australian accent from a Cairns accent, from a Tasmanian accent. So yeah, so Melissa, so there's the same over here. So we have lots of different accents. So Bob is from Alabama, which is southern in the southern U.S., and so that's the lovely melodious accent that we're hearing tonight. She'd like to know, Robert, how do you choose the names of your characters? Yeah, so I love that question. So we've got Jason Rich, which is a funny name. He's an ambulance chaser lawyer. And tell us how you came up with that.
Well, it was critical, I thought, with his name to have something that would look good on a billboard and that would look good with a jingle. And I thought the Get Rich thing was pretty close to the line of what would be allowed. I actually talked to a friend of mine down at the state bar. I was like, I know you can't tell me whether you would, accept this or not, but would it be close? And he was like, yeah, we would definitely, it would be close. And so I thought it was good enough. And so I wanted the name to go with a jingle, like In an Accident Get Rich. And so that's where Jason's name came from. And then other names, sometimes I give Easter eggs to myself. I'll pick somebody's name that I like, or I'll merge two names, like Rick Drake. Two from my first series was two of my best friends' first name and one of their last names. And so, I ordinate a lot of times. I will see somebody just random, like a bank teller who's got an interesting name, and I'll write it down because I think that's cool. I haven't seen that before. So, I naming the characters is a fun. I enjoy doing that.
And how did you come up with Jason's sister Jana, and how did you come up with your villain names in the book?
So Jana is a name that I've always liked. I've always loved that name. It's I've had I have a family member named Jana. I've had friends named Jana. I wanted the Jana Rich has got. She is a pretty complicated character, and she's really strong. I wanted her name to be something that would be just a kind of a strong sort of fierce name. And it just sort of, and I kind of like the play off Jana and Jason, brother and sister, so it sort of just rolled together that way.
Thank you for the fabulous question, Melissa. And Robert, thank you for the answer. I love that you give yourself Easter eggs, so fun little treats or little fun nuggets that you hide throughout the book.
Right.
That is so, so fun. We have a mystery user saying, this one is on my TBR and this cover is gorgeous. So tell us the story of the cover. Did you get to pick it? Did you get to be involved? Did you love it at first? Tell us everything.
Okay, so I do love the cover very much. What I do is I'll give ideas to the publisher of what I think the cover should be, and then they'll throw things back to me. And so here, I really thought it was important that the water be in it, and I thought it was neat the way they used the Rich name as well as blood, which signifies so much in the story in terms of family, as well as just the sinister nature of some of the elements in the story. And so I really liked that. And then they sent this to me. And what's cool about it is when we shared it, the person that took the photograph they used actually reached out to me and said, that's my photograph. And so that's actually a picture of a real boathouse on Lake Guntersville. So it's very authentic to place, which is one of the things I like best about it.
That is so cool. What a great story. And what a thrill for the photographer to see this used on the cover and then to take the time to reach out to you. I love this.
Really
I love this. Liza saying, yay for the flow and grind. Hi, Liza. Leisha saying, your book sounds like a great read. I love page turners. And she would like to know, Robert, which was the hardest character for you to write and why?
I think in this book, probably, I think the hardest character to write was probably Jana. Jana has good qualities. She has bad qualities. She drives her family crazy, her daughters and her brother. But she is the straw that stirs the drink in this story. I mean, everything that happens, I mean, she's a gaslighter. So she makes everybody, really question their own sanity, but they all love her. That's the quintessential family catch-22 is that they all love her and they are all attracted to being around her. And so I wanted to capture that right, because I think especially in families, you have that dynamic where maybe there's somebody that you just, sometimes just drives you nuts, but you love them, and then you find yourself doing stuff for them. And I think that's what happens with Jason, is despite having moved away primarily to get away from Jana, he's brought back into the relationship, and he's driven crazy again, but at the end of the day, they're family. And so that's kind of at the heart of the story. But nailing the that interaction and just the complicated nature of what's going on with Jana was probably the hardest part.
A crazy family member that drives you crazy, but you love them anyway. I can't relate to that at all. I don't know what you're talking about, Robert. Just kidding. Melissa saying this is so great. She thought your accent was somewhere southern. She went nowhere. Melissa, thank you. She said she loves your reasoning. Absolutely. Me too. So great to get this. Leisha wants to know, what was your favorite book when you were a little boy?
Gosh, it depends on how little. I wasn't quick to read. We learned to read in the first grade back when I was coming up, and so I remember the Bobbsey twin books because they were the first books that I could just I could really gobble them up, and they were easy reads. But I love those books, and then I loved the Encyclopedia Brown books when I was in like the fifth grade, sixth grade. Loved all the Judy Blume and the Beverly Cleary books. Really liked them a lot when I was a kid. So I liked the kind of the classic, kid books a lot when I was young.
Oh, Leisha, thank you for the great question, Robert. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, reading matters so much when you're little, and it's so great to get that glimpse. Leisha has a question also about the title. She said, when do you decide on the title of your book, before, during, or after you finish writing it?
So I have I'll have a working title. A lot of times the working title becomes the title. Like The Professor was always The Professor and never changed. And then you'll have something like Rich Blood, where originally I had the title as The Gaslighter, and we ended up changing it to Rich Blood because we thought it was a kind of a joint effort. And sometimes you like the other title, and it's hard to give it up, but I think it's definitely a sort of a roundtable kind of discussion with the publisher through emails about, and I'll send out 5 or 6 ideas that I think would fit, and then we'll talk about which ones we like. But I've had it both ways, where, the one I came up with was sort of kind of tossed to the side because maybe it just, it might confuse people. Like I had, I guess my first book in the Bo Cephas Haynes series was originally going to be called The General, because one of the characters in the story was going to be on trial, and her name was General Helen Lewis. Well, we thought that might confuse folks to think it was a military book, and then when it's a legal thriller, and so and they were right, and so sometimes I'm stubborn about it, and I'll fight for the title even though they're right, and I eventually come around to we eventually come around to a decision. So I've been happy with all of it.
I love knowing that Rich Blood was you were originally calling it The Gaslighter. I have to say, I love the play on their last name being Rich Blood and Jason's billboard being Get Rich. I mean, it's so fun. That's really cool. Leisha saying, thank you so much for answering my question, Robert. Leisha, you're so welcome. She's adding that Beverly Cleary books are so awesome. And thank you again for answering her questions. Leisha, always a pleasure to have you. Melissa saying she sounds so good. She can't wait to read your book and learn more about this Jana. Yes. So y'all, the book is not even out yet. It is out on Thursday, and you can pre-order now. So here is the link. So I'm going to pop it in the comments. So pre-order it tonight. And the good folks at Murder by the Book will put this in the mail to you when it drops on Thursday. So this is a special pre-launch event that Bob is joining us here to give us the inside scoop on his book, taking all of our questions and telling us how this book came to be. I have a question, Robert. How long did it take you to get this book done? So you shared The Professor. Your first book took you 8 years. 8 years, right?
8 years, yeah.
Okay, so now you're on book 8. How long did book 8 take you?
It's somewhere between about 7 to 8 months. The first draft probably took about 4 or 5 months, and then the developmental editing process was about a month and a half, 2 months, and then copy editing and proofreading is another month or two. So it probably took me about 8 months. It may have stretched out over 10, but I think the actual writing was probably only about 8.
Wow. Okay, so what have you learned from a craft perspective from book 1, 8 years, book 8, 8 months? You've gotten faster. You share that you feel stronger and better as a writer. What would you tell yourself 8 years ago? Hey, this is what
Well,
you should know.
so one of my biggest faults early as a writer is I would have scenes where my main character would be, brushing his teeth and thinking a lot, and or he would be sitting in, or she would be sitting in the library, or they would be reading a book and thinking, and a lot of thoughts, but nothing happening in the story. And so, I would tell myself then that, you need to move the story. They need to be thinking on their way to doing something, and having action, still having characterization, but making sure you're moving the story while you're doing it. I like character driven fiction. So I like stories where I really get to know the character. I love the Michael Connelly books by Harry Bosch, because Harry Bosch likes jazz, and he's everybody counts or nobody counts. And there's a lot of things about him that, resonate. And I haven't read a book of his in a while, but I remember that character vividly, the house looking out over the valley, and um, all those details are captured as he's telling this really thrilling, murder mystery, and Bosch is doing all this stuff. And so um, I've learned how to sort of pace the story to where you have a strong sort of fast start, then you let them catch a breath and meet the character some, and then you kind of get into the heart of it, and you kind of ramp it on up there towards the end. And so there's a kind of a pace to it, and I I feel like I don't know. I just feel I used to say this when I was playing a lot of golf. I played golf in college. When I was playing a lot and really feeling good about my game, I sort of felt oily, where the club felt good in my hands, and I felt good over putts. And when I come to writing now, because I do it every day, and because we're continuing to write different stories, I just feel oily now. I feel like I know what I'm doing. It's not like I'm reinventing the wheel every time. And so that the confidence of just having done it is big. So that's a long answer to your question. Sorry.
So one might say you are a well-oiled machine, a well-oiled writing machine. Publishers Weekly awarded you a starred review for The Wrong Side. So many amazing reviews we could get into, and we will in just a moment. But Heath, welcome to the conversation, would like to know, was it difficult to say goodbye to the professor, Robert?
It was really difficult. The professor was very much based on my father, who died in 2017 of lung cancer. And so Tom's story arc, really starts to mirror my dad's story arc there at the end. And so we finished those books in 2019, but certainly, the last 2 books at least were kind of like, gave me a chance to sort of spend some time with my dad in a way. Very much therapeutic, but really hard to say goodbye, and really wanted him to go out appropriately, I wanted to feel good about that. And I didn't want to keep him doing things that weren't, up to his standards. So I really feel like kind of we nailed it with the final reckoning. I'm really happy with the way the story played out. But yeah, it was hard, and I miss him just like I miss my dad.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. That's so lovely, Robert. What a beautiful homage to your dad. What a beautiful way to honor him in this character that has meant so much to so many readers. And to know now that he, that he has stayed with you as the creator of this character and the son of your dad in real life. I love this conversation. Heath, thank you for that question, which let us know this. You shared that you love the Harry Bosch series. Leisha would like to know what other books you like to read. What's your favorite genre, and what are you reading now? Great questions, Leisha.
So the book I'm reading now is Five Decembers by James Kestrel, who won the Edgar Award last year. It's been on my shelf for a while.
Ooh,
I'm
okay.
really excited about that one. I just finished reading The Old Man by Thomas Perry. That's now, I think, Amazon series with Jeff Bridges, but
Ooh.
it was fantastic. And I think my favorite new writer is S.A. Cosby. Razorblade Tears and Blacktop Wasteland were my favorite books I read last year. So I love reading mystery thrillers, but I've really gotten into Southern Gothic stuff.
Mm.
Eli Craner's book Don't Know Tough last year was fantastic. That was a really good story, and so always looking for new stuff, and that's probably one of the best things about Twitter and Facebook is other writers recommending books, and so I a lot of times we'll check that out. That's why I read The Old Man, as Lee Goldberg talked about it on Facebook, and then same thing. I think I got a hold of Eli Craner because S.A. Cosby recommended him, and I think I just saw that Cosby was winning a lot of awards, and I was like, I got to check this guy out. I always wait for the next Connolly book. I love John Sanford and his Prey novels. I love getting into a character and following him over time. And I love Greg Iles. Greg Iles has written a lot of novels, and he has this fictional world where, his main character, Penn Cage, will be the main character, and then he'll make a cameo, like in another book about somebody else. And so I'm doing that now in my stories. It's always been a dream of mine, but in Rich Blood, there'll be a Key McMurtry character that'll show up. And so it's a big Easter egg, for the reader and also for me. So that's kind of fun. It's a new series, but it's in the same fictional, universe. So I've always wanted to do that. So I'm getting to do it with Rich Blood.
Yay! I love Easter eggs where they pop up like that, where you're like, there when they make a cameo, just a very casual cameo, and you have to be in the know to know. Like you have to have read the prior books to know. Otherwise, you might just read past it as a cool character and a cool moment. But for the fans, for the true fans, that is very cool. So I linked the books that Robert recommended. So here is the link to The Old Man, which is a book that is new to me. Hadn't heard of that. Here is 5 Decembers. Also had not heard of that. So thank you for those two recommendations. I am a huge fan of S.A. Cosby. Razorblade Tears, one of my favorite books of the year. That is such a powerful, painful, beautiful portrait of these two men. And the climate right now. So here is the link to S.A. Cosby's Razorblade Tears. If you have not read that, do yourself a favor and check it out. You will enjoy it. Oh my goodness, y'all, we're out of time, but I want to remind you guys, Robert's book is out on Thursday. The one that Patricia Cornwell herself called Wildly Entertaining. So check it out, pre-order right now. I'm going to pop the link in the comments one more time, just because you will want to pre-order it. So get your orders in tonight, and the good folks at Murder by the Book will get this out to you in the mail on Thursday, so you too can get rich. Jason Rich, that is, Jason and Jana Rich, and enjoy this delicious world that Robert Bailey has created for us. So pre-order now. Here, I'm going to pop it up so you can grab it no matter where you're watching from. Robert, thank you so much for coming on and giving us the inside scoop on Rich Blood. What a pleasure to hear from you and to get the inside scoop on your writing process, on these characters, on your cover, on your title. So much tea was spilled tonight. Leisha's saying she enjoyed this live chat so much. Thank you, Sarah and Robert. I will be adding to my TBR. Yes, ma'am. Well, what a perfect note to end on. Robert Bailey, thank you so much for joining us. Y'all, happy Mystery Monday. We're not here next week. It is Labor Day, so I'll see y'all in 2 weeks for Mystery Monday, because Mondays can be murder. Have a great night.